Fighters 97. Story moves or final destiny.
The King of Fighters 97 was originally released back in 1997 for the Neo Geo AES and the arcade Neo Geo MVS, or Multi-Video System. Today we'll be taking a look at the import Saturn version from 1998. The game makes use of the 1MB RAM cart, and yes, it works perfectly fine with the Action Replay Plus cart. Meaning the only King of Fighters that doesn't work with the cart being the King of Fighters 95 for some particular reason. Much like what I said when I reviewed the King of Fighters 96, you can expect a fairly hefty amount of loading in between matches and between different rounds. It's about on par with King of Fighters 96 if I'm being completely honest with you. I know a lot of you wrote in saying that the load times are nothing compared to that of the Neo Geo CD, and while that's certainly true, it's also nowhere near as seamless as the MVS or AES cartridge. That said, it's also only a fraction of the price. I should also mention that eventually I'll be covering the whole series via the Arcade Archives collection on the Nintendo Switch. When they're all made available, that is. KOF 97 is a special one as the roster and team lineup was actually voted on by fans through polls run by Gamist, Neo Geo Freak, and Weekly Famitsu. The Saturn version of the game even ended up selling almost 100,000 copies during its first week at retail. KOF 97 features a roster of 30 playable characters, the same level of incredible animations as we saw with KOF 96, and a nice balanced soundtrack. The music in this series is always a love it or hate it affair, but for me, I've always found at least a few good tracks that I really got into, but this one has a really good soundtrack. The biggest change up with KOF 97 is the fact that there are two distinct playstyles you can select from prior to any match, Advanced and Extra. Advanced is based on the system introduced with KOF 96, whereby you stock the power gauge, and Extra plays more akin to the King of Fighters 94 and 95, where you manually charge the power gauge. Advanced mode typically favors aggressive players, and while the system works like KOF 96, it has actually been tweaked somewhat. You no longer charge the power gauge, it's now filled whenever you hit an opponent or whenever you perform a special move. You can stock up to 3 power gauges, and you can use one stock to perform a super special move or enter max mode, where your character's stats, both defensive and offensive, are increased. Performing a super special move while in max mode allows you to perform a much more powerful version of your super special move. Extra mode is really aimed at more defensive players and allows you to fill the power gauge by charging it or defending against incoming attacks. Once filled, you enter max mode, and like advanced mode, your character's stats are enhanced. Super special moves can only be performed in max mode or when your life gauge flashes red, which indicates that you're just about to be defeated. In fact, the most powerful version of the super special move is done while the life bar is flashing red and when you're in max mode. One last difference in this mode is that the emergency roll from KOF 96, which is in advanced mode, is replaced by the sidestep from earlier King of Fighters games. Everything else in terms of core combat is pretty much like what you've come to expect. The thing is that, even though it's minor, the two distinct modes really add a nice layer of depth to the game. Yes, this isn't anything like we would see in future games like with the Groove or Isms system, but it's still a nice shake-up to a proven formula. SNK also threw in a hidden Kyo from King of Fighters 94, which was really nice when the fans discovered him. The King of Fighters 97 is an excellent game with more balanced artificial intelligence, fantastic graphics, and for their time, a great soundtrack. The King of Fighters 97 is an excellent game with more balanced AI, fantastic graphics for their time, and a great soundtrack. You can import this Saturn version for not too much money these days if you buy it as part of a lot or wait for an auction. I'd strongly recommend checking this one out when you can. It's a really great fighter.